Thank you very much for waiting. We'd like to move on to the keynote speech. Today's speaker is Mr. Yoshie Nakagita, Vice Chairman of All Japan Handmade Washi Association. Mr. Nakagita was born in Ise City, Mie Prefecture, graduated from School of Law, Osaka University. Currently, he is a representative director of Taiho Washi Kogyo. Also, counselor of Ise Jingu of the Grand Shrine of Ise, and he is the vice chairman of All Japan Handmade Washi Association. He served as a 2017-18 vice governor of Ise Tobashima Group, District 2630 of Rotary International. He's also a Mie branch member of Japan Realist Photographers Association. Mr. Nakagita, the floor is yours. Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm from Ise City. I'm Yoshie Nakagita of Taiho Washi Kogyo. Could you share the screen? Well, first, these panels, 2 panels, please take a look. Handmade washi that we produced is used and printed by inkjet printer, 2 pictures, photographs. And I myself took these pictures. As Japanese object, I have brought these 2 for you. Ise paper, Ise washi, was developed for printing paper, and after inkjet printer appeared, we believe that this is our task to do. Could you share the slide? Would you please? Thank you very much. The title is that since Ise washi has developed as printing paper, and above that, increase the options, I wrote. And probably you have heard this from Toyota Motor Corporation. People said that to climb the mountain, there are many ways, and they are thinking many ways, and they don't know which would be the best. So they try the taking various ways and then finds the best solution. That is like a DNA of Toyota Motor Corporation. And thinking about that, I put the title as Increase the Options, like the of news in TV commercials. It's the title of my presentation, from the traditional paper making to the automobile, high technologies. The people have done various trials, and to increase the options means that we give up something which are not useful anymore. But on the other hand, what we have done so far should be maintained as the important option. So that is also my message on the title. Since this is a keynote speech, I sent this message first. Washi, produced across Japan, has developed in diverse ways to meet the demands of each region. In washi's tradition, various technologies were developed and excellent productions were achieved. We can be proud of its history. The modern era, when low cost and high volume generated profit will not come back anymore, when society is awakened from the disillusionment and recovered consciousness to seek for fulfillment and richness, we can recontribute to the society with our technology and experiences. Papermaking in various parts of Japan should maintain its tenacious vitality for years to come. This is the message that I sent. The people's societies started from very small community, and self-supply was practiced. And then each people had the capability to live And of course, that they had contact with the external people or communities. But it was like from giving some excessive items to others. And then it's like we have the words that to one whale, 7 beaches are prosperous, meaning big profit bring many people profits. Probably it's in Mie Prefecture. So you get various items, but you cannot consume at once. So you would distribute that to others. So that is giving to the people. And on the other hand, mass production. Consumers are usually passive. They don't have technologies nor ability to judge. They're engaged with societies with money only. Production and distribution are broken down to details, and the society are interrelated in a complex way. Due to eliminating redundancy and occurrence of unexpected failures, the balance will be lost. Well, this is like a COVID-19 pandemic, and it has given us a lesson. The skilled manual works is an active user aggressively explores quality, and manufacturer meticulously builds in quality to satisfy users' objective. Technology meets emotion, and need improves functions. It's not the stage of the self-supply, but it's not at the mass production level. Another stage that we have cultivated another culture. We have the All Japan Washi Association, Handmade Washi Association, and then these are many handmade paper washi manufacturers in Japan. This here, Obara is one of them, and then Ise is also one of them. And then the other day on the newspaper in Scotland, there are nearly 140 distilleries of Scotch whiskey. I have seen this sentence, and I thought that only 140 for the Scotch whiskey, enjoyed everywhere in the world. But Japanese paper making mills were nearly 300 just a few years ago, and now it's around 200 or less, but still 200. But Scotch whiskey, well, the skill is different, and I have not made any firm confirmation, but only 140, that is a little shock. And I am very confident about our industry.
And in Ise we make paper. And Ise is located in Mie, and Mie covers Iga, Ise, Shima, and Higashi Kishu. And we are located where the Ise big shrine is. And we have the shrine, the Ise calendar, Ise paper, Ise tea, Ise dialect, Ise shrimp, Ise bay. There are many things that has the name of Ise. And we are the ones making Ise handmade paper, washi. And there is this ceremony that is held once in every 20 years, which is called the Shikinen Sengu, and it means transfer of deities. And we make sure that every 20 years, all the votive objects and furniture and accessories are being replaced. And we always want to offer the best things of the top expert handmade things. But now, when these experts will be disappearing, after all, it would be the independent artists or those artists who will be in charge of this. But is it going to be okay? There is a concern here. It's only when we have many people engaging in traditional artwork we can come up with the best top-notch output. And in Ise, we also use the paper for the amulets and all the calendars. Ise washi has been used for many purposes for the Ise Big Shrine. And this is how Ise Washi has been developed as paper for printing. And what you see below is the Ise calendar during the Edo period in Japan. And this is our wooden block printing. Ise received the original master print from Kyoto, and they curved it on the wooden block. And then in Ise, we used to print those calendar. That means, historically speaking, the washi paper in Ise has always been used for printing. And what you see here is our paper mill. Some papers are handmade, some papers are machine-made. It depends on where the paper is being produced. In Ise, we do both, and that's pretty much uncommon. And this is showing the paper, machine-made paper. And this is the handmade paper. And for Ise Washi paper, we use Diplomorpha, Paperbush, Mulberry, Musa, various ingredients, natural ingredients are used for different purpose of paper. And we cleanse and bleach the ingredients, and one by one we do the hand making of paper. And this summer we came up with one of the big handmade paper which was designed for printing. And for us to do that, we had to come up with 41-inch, 1,118 millimeter size paper. And these two staff are making the handmade paper, and we made 100 plus of these and delivered it to the artist. This shows the stainless steel plate, and these plates are being used to dry the paper indoors. Paper must be dried gradually. That is important, and that is why we dry it indoor without applying artificial heat. So we just use the room temperature to dry the paper. And what you see is the different variety and the attributes of Ise Washi paper. For inkjet printing, when we develop different types of paper, we have different ingredients, and we make the most out of the attributes of the ingredients. For the inkjet printing, we use the pigments, and when the ink stays close to the surface of the paper, the color becomes bright and darker. On the other hand, when the ink goes down deep into the paper, the color would be more gentle and mild. And by using the fiber of conifer, we can have mulberry, diplomorpha. Of course, we can also use paperbush. But when we use diplomorpha, the ink tends to stay on the surface of the paper. So we can really come up with a bright, vibrant output. And when we use the mulberry, the Kozo mulberry, the ink tends to go down and be absorbed, and you really be able to come with the very gentle, mild output, like the washi. So depending on how white the paper is and how delicate you want the art to be out, we come up with different ingredients and variety of paper. This chart shows, on the left side, you find different colored lines, and each different color shows the different printers being used. So, and depending on the printer you use, you can come up with different output. The red color printer, gray color printer, blue color printer, yellow, green. So these are different models of printer. In that case, you get to see the top to down, it shows how dark the printing would be. And below you see different types of paper, Yuki-iro, Torinoko, Yubi, and also moving farther to the right side, you find different type of washi as well, including Fuga, Fusho, and also the pure Diplomorpha paper. The more the paper changes from left to right, the ink becomes darker. Now, moving on to the chart on the right. Well, we used only one single model of printer on the chart on the right, and we showed the different colors of ink from left white to right black, and see how it changes. So white color things should be printed out whiter, and black ink should be printed out blacker. And you see a very linear curve here. And especially for the pure Diplomorpha paper, the thickness or the darkness goes, if it's log 2, it's 100, and if it's 3, it's 1000. And this 1.8 value shows a very, very dark color. And even using the genuine paper, it can't come up with this much thickness of 1.8, but using the Diplomorpha made paper, you really can come up with a very dark printing.
In the case of Isewashi, we do not do any surface treatment or surface processing. Therefore, the selection of the ingredients and materials, and also blending and the manufacturing method, these would realize the differences and the characteristics of the paper. And this is a typical climate of the Japanese area facing the Pacific Ocean. In summer, it's very hot and the humidity is very high, and then in winter, the humidity is low. Well, probably people living on the coastal side of the Pacific Ocean may feel that way. However, physically speaking, of course, that if the temperature rises and the humidity lowers, and then if the temperature lowers, and then the humidity would grow. But in Japan, such kind of physical principles does not apply. Therefore, on a daily life, in summer the humidity is high, and in winter humidity is low. That is very common for us, but this is a very special the condition of Japanese or Japan. Also, recently people suggest that, how about changing your lighting for LED to save energy? Well, indeed, LED is energy saving. However, actually, red, blue, green lights are combined to make very clean white is very difficult to do. Therefore, regular white lighting device is very difficult to find. Well, without combining these colors correctly, it takes time and money. Therefore, at inexpensive cost, we would like to offer that color. And so the white would not be so clean, but such kind of LEDs are actually available. And then if you have a very high ambition and you would like to create the very clean white, such manufacturers are very having difficulty to make profit. So to that extent, LED is already very much available on the market. When we had the white-colored the bulbs, we had the general color rendering index RA100. But what was the ideal the index. But in LED and the fluorescence light era, and then we have to save energy. So probably temporarily we lost good light. Well, I don't think that many people talk about that. And people would believe LED is more advanced and also good for the environment. And another thing is that if you produce in much mass volume, you would decrease the cost. Well, that is actually a very much mysterious thing. Usually, if you increase more, and then the cost would also increase. And usually, it would become costly if you produce more. But, well, Toyota Motor Corporation has developed the very precious production engineering, and if they produce more, and then they can also lower the cost. That's wonderful and amazing. And that is due to the efforts of their sales efforts. And for the society in general, if you produce in large volume, you would lower the cost. That is already a common sense. But actually, this is thanks to a excellent technology and great efforts. And this is very rare and unusual. So that's an amazing thing, but we should not forget that. This is not usual or common. Washi, well, is very valuable because we have users, and also it expands the emotion of the people, drawing, printing, and writing, and also the pasting and then folding and wrapping. And also that we can see through it or shut out the light. And for various purposes, washi has been used. And washi is used for the individual persons or for your products. But paper is material, so there are various applications of usage. So such demands are met by us, paper maker, and so the makers, and then handmade and the machine makers, and also our All Japan Handmade Washi Association is for the handmade paper makers. And in doing our business, of course, we need raw materials. Already I have introduced the raw materials such as kozo, mitsumata, gampi, basho, and then also the conifer. These are supplied by the material suppliers. The raw materials, actually the good materials are really difficult to get or obtain these days. Well, that is also related to the scale of business. But a well-balanced manufacturer of materials and paper makers, also that the utensil or tool makers, or the making machine makers, all these makers and suppliers are related in paper making, and then they are complex relations, and the paper production itself is shrinking little by little. Then with the same balance, the manufacturers of machines and the raw materials and the paper and the users, the balances are all even, then nobody would be in trouble. But if any balance is not even or imbalanced, then there will be some problems. For example, that we are using our machines for paper making, but suddenly well, certain part is broken, so we have to ask the machine company to repair it.
20 years ago, if it's an equipment that was introduced 20 years ago and then it went through a repair 10 years ago, but then you don't find the company anymore who is in charge of doing the repair because it's already been a long time, then we can't have the manufacturer to do the repair or the maintenance. So you have to look for a company that could do that. And also these compressors and also these machines too. Well, we have the Association of the All Japan Handmade Washi Association Working Group, which is also securing these tools. That is why we are being able to have these tools to allow us to continue to make the handmade washi. But when we want to come up with tools that we need for handmade paper, the screens for the handmade washi uses bamboo, and we have to make sure that the bamboo strings are being braided, and that's how we make the screen. But it even takes a year to get all these raw ingredients or the feedstock, and that is why we can't simply have those tools right away. These are the complicated situation we are facing, yet we continue to make the handmade washi paper. And we make sure to always be aware of different kind of information, things that are going on. And I am now sharing some newspaper articles, and the article on the right shows about the Mino washi paper. And this is an article that shows that during the COVID pandemic, they were able to increase the net sales of washi. Through the handmade washi, well, people are always thinking on how to promote the sales of these washi paper. And they are being able to come up with very different kind of paper products full of ideas. And this is a good news we heard. Through the ideas, they were able to boost the sales of paper. And on the left side, you see an article which is about the pure mie washi that are growing and growing. We use paper bush Mitsumata, and we purchased the raw ingredients from Okayama Prefecture, but we can't have stable supply with quality paper bush always. And we were always wondering how we could secure our raw ingredients stably. Then we found out that in Mie Prefecture, there is a farmer, or in the mountains, there is a place that many paper bush is growing. And after constructing a motorway, they found out that they thought of planting some kind of plants, but it didn't grow well. And then they happened to find that there were paper bush planted in a neighborhood area, so they thought maybe this could work. So they decided to plant the paper bush in the surroundings of the motorway, and then they found out that that was growing well. So these paper bush were not planted for the sake of paper making, but for more of keeping the greenery. Then we got to know about this, so we approached them and we were asking if we could also secure or procure these paper bush Mitsumata for the paper. But people didn't know how to make use of the Mitsumata paper bush to make it into ingredients. So we taught the local people on how to grow and how to process it into paper ingredients. And this article exactly shows those processes. And we were able to make the paper from the paper bush, and actually this paper was being introduced to be used for certificates, but with the COVID pandemic, unfortunately, the sports competition was not held in the way that we expected, so the certificates using the paper bush paper were not, after all, used. Yet, we were able to find out that there are locally produced paper bush, and that is why we would like to make this sustainable. This shows the local Isewashi Gallery, and we are now organizing an exhibit. And these paper too here are handmade washi paper made by us, and we have the applicants and the artists to print their pictures and photos on these paper. As I mentioned earlier, the paper has different roles, including having the light to pass through. So you see this art piece which is hung along the window. This is intentionally having the light pass through. Even the Japanese washi doors are used for those purpose. And we can also use paper as an artwork that allows the light to pass through, and you see different art pieces being hung along the wall, the corridor, and also the stairs. This is the main gallery. And this art piece too, the big one, has been intentionally hung in front of the window to allow the light to come in. We started and we are making washi paper for the printing. And Isewashi has been historically used for paper to be offered to the Ise Big Shrine. And in this history, when the inkjet printers were launched into the market, we naturally thought that these paper for printing should be made by Isewashi too. And this big art piece on the left side is a calligraphy. And of course, the Sumi black ink used is water pigment. And it is same as the inkjet print, because they are also made of water pigment. And Isewashi is matching these arts. And this is how we have been developing our work. And it could be any pictures or printing or artwork, but we thought people will be using more paper with the pandemic because they are now staying at home. But then we found out that even before the pandemic, these artists naturally stayed at home, so we didn't see any increase of use of paper with the pandemic. And we have a lot of inventory now. But as long as we do keep on making paper, because paper is not perishable, we don't have to worry about the best before date. And in fact, paper has some vintage. So I think that at least 5 years, after 5 years, paper will start to have its own style or taste. And if you see in the demand and supply balance, you hardly maybe see paper that will be kept there for 5-10 years. But in terms of washi, the more you have these inventories, the more you can have these being a vintage.
So paper or washi is in our daily lives, is offered for various users, and as I said before, we are very confident about paper making going forward, and we would like you to love and also use Issei Washi going forward. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Mr. Nagakita, thank you very much.